Tell us about the JLF journey. You mentioned that Jaipur Virasat with John and Faith had started and it did not do well. And you were, of course, running the festival, but it wasn't doing financially, it wasn't feasible, and you sort of rescued it. So just tell us about how the empty halls went to this, the largest literature festival in the world. You're hosting it in 20 odd countries now?
In 10 odd countries.
10 odd countries,
yeah. So as I said, Jaipur Virasat, when that festival happened, we didn't run it. We only produced within it. And we actually had nothing to do with the running of their festival. It's when that festival, wasn't being successful, which is when we took over and set up. So 18 years ago, exactly 18 years ago. So it was December, I remember when Mahavir and Faith came across, and I think we were at a reception at the British High Commission, and they said, let's seal this deal of, taking over and making Jaipur Literature Festival. And that first year at Diggy, and we inherited Diggy. It's not that was our choice. We inherited Diggy because that's where Jaipur Virasat used to be. And one knew Jyotika and Ram Pratap because of the annual activity that we also used to be part of. And at that point of time, if you remember, Diggy was literally 3 rooms at $750 a pop and the Darbar Hall. And I remember it was a cold winter morning. And I came down and I told Sunil and somebody, I said, how many chairs are there in this Darbar Hall? And they said 230. I said, 100 ko nikalo. I said, take away 100. Who are these people coming? Because previously, if you hear Willie's stories, when they used to do it, there was 13, Japanese tourists who wandered in accidentally kind of stuff. But people came. And in that first year, we had 7,000 people who came.
Wow.
And in the second year, word of mouth, 14,000 came. And in the third year, 30,000 came. And the fourth year, which was the Oprah Winfrey year, 60,000 came. And then it continued to grow. And, I attribute it to a number of reasons. One is that here there was great programming, but it was also outside of the IIC and the IHCs of the world. It was in this sort of crumbling palace, which in itself in many ways denoted the romance and the valor of a particular era. It was also the great hospitality. Jyotika and all her sister-in-laws and Ram Pratap's sisters used to serve in their poshak. And then you had evening music. So it became like this incredible place for people to come together. And it was set in Jaipur against the backdrop of the Hawa Mahals and the Amer forts and the wonderful closing dinners that we used to do in your place. And I think all of that together, and the fact that also you had an opportunity to go out for retail therapy. It is the place to buy jewelry and furniture and block printed stuff. And all of this came together to contribute to the success of the festival. And when we came to the fourth year and Deepak Chopra sent us this email saying, would you consider inviting Oprah Winfrey to the festival? Would I consider? Obviously, I may think about it. Of course we consider. With Oprah came all of America and all of the international press. And that was the year Salman Rushdie was supposed to come, and that didn't happen. Yeah. And, as they say, there's no real bad press. And every year thereafter, for the next few years, there was some controversy. Somebody said something, somebody read something. And that then fueled the world's interest in Jaipur. And after that, there was no looking back, to the extent that we then had to dial back by about 2015, 2016. The government kept telling us, you have to reduce the number of people coming through Diggy Palace. And that's when we moved the music stage to your wonderful hotel at Clark's. And our effort then was, can we reduce numbers of people coming to us by about 100,000 a year? And we did that, if you remember, in 2018 by shutting down registration mid-December without telling anybody. Just stopping registration when it hit a 75,000 unique registration. And then, of course, COVID happened, so everything went to zero. But it then also allowed us to relook at the model when we were moving. It was a clean break. 2 years, there was nothing. We were online, which in itself was a huge new experience for us and huge audiences. We had 25 million people watching us online. And we moved to Clark's after conversations with you guys, making sure that was that clean break and an opportunity. And even today, people say, oh, Diggy Palace. But I think the sense of being able to work with you guys to create this ambience, which may not quite be that, but is that plus plus. So you have a much easier architecture, easier way to roam around the whole hotel, the areas that have now been opened up. This year, of course, we're opening up the new Surya Mahal, as we're going to call it, hall. So, in many ways, that worked both to contain our on ground numbers and not make it as bhir bhadakka as it used to be, but also allow people to experience a whole new world there. And, one is seeing the way that your writers today prefer, for example, to stay at Clark's. 10 years ago, if you said that, they'd say, no, we'd like to stay in a Haveli, at Diggy or Unaro or Alcisar or one of the Havelis. But today it's like, no, we're, more and more happy. And that's the first place that people look to book, even if they're not in the festival. I think Clark's, in that sense, has found that space in the way that Diggy did 18 years ago. So it's been, in that evolution of the Jaipur Literature Festival, it's been amazing how, not necessarily because of us, I think it's also the audiences that have contributed so much. It's our partners like you folks who've stepped up to the table and said, the nitty gritty, we need more bathrooms, stuff that makes it much easier for people to navigate space. That's what's really made the success of the festival.
More than just Clark's or Diggy or Teamwork Arts, I think it's put Jaipur on the world map. The contribution to Jaipur's economy and tourism, I don't think a single person in probably Indian history has had a more profound impact than you. And because you've sort of taken the JLF brand, you could have chosen to create any other brand in the world and taken it. You've taken the JLF brand to 10 different countries. And what kind of tourists come during this time? I'm talking about now. And what kind of economic impact have you measured that? And has it had?
So we last measured the economic impact about 10 or 12 years ago in the initial days. And at that point of time, it was 101 crores of additional income into Jaipur's economy. The measurement that I forget whether it was EY or whoever did it, was they measured hotels, travel into, transportation. And I think they took 5 disciplines. So they took furniture, jewelry, textile, printed textile, pottery, I think, and one other, I can't remember. It's difficult now to compute it because it's so large in that sense.
It might be 10x of that.
Everybody from the Mumfali wala to whatever benefits from it. But on the ground, pre-COVID and post-COVID, we've seen a change. So on the ground, for example, in terms of Indian audiences, say 50% used to be Jaipur, Rajasthan, then Delhi, Gurgaon, Bombay, Bangalore, and stuff like that. And internationally, US and UK were number 1 and 2, and then Australia, Canada, all of the Commonwealth countries. Since we went online in 2020, that's changed pretty radically. So our online audiences, number 1 and 2 internationally, is still US and UK. But number 3 and 4 at some point was Germany, China. And number 5 was Indonesia. Number 6 was Uzbekistan. Yesterday, Shivaji just showed me, the registrations for this year. It's 101 countries who have registered online and on ground.
Wow.
Everything from St. Kitts and Nevis and Tobago and whatever, the Dominion Republic, to the UAEs, the Saudi Arabias, and so on and so forth, with the USA, UK still dominating in terms of numbers. Locally, we've seen a shift. So yes, it's Jaipur, Rajasthan, etc., because so many people come and stay with friends, etc. But it's Delhi, Gurgaon, pretty much balanced with Bombay, but also Bangalore and Calcutta. But more importantly, what we're seeing is the smaller towns. So your Indores and Meerats and Aurangabads and Kozhikodes and Bhubaneswars, etc., pretty much on the map of where people are coming from today. So it's very interesting to see how that's changed. And the international audiences, as you've seen, now that COVID is well behind us, has, last 2 years certainly has been growing in sizable numbers. And I think in many ways, like you said, they're the ones who go out and take brand JLF or brand Jaipur or brand Rajasthan or brand India back, and then talk about, how amazing it is. What we do is really ride on that. I mean, we added JLF Seattle and JLF North Carolina last year to our larger JLFs there. And it was so amazing that, when you roll up to a new city without a Rolodeck, you start growing it small, right? So we assume that maybe 150 people will come, 200 people will come. How much more? This was packed out, and as a result of which, again, this year you'll see so many people from Seattle will be coming to Jaipur as delegations because they got so excited about JLF coming to Seattle.
JLF at
that-
Maldives also.
and JLF Maldives. So they're coming here. Similarly, JLF in Spain, in Valladolid. Remember, this is not Madrid or Barcelona. This is Valladolid. It's an hour away. And in our first year, we were in the city square. By the second year, we had outgrown the town square, and we are now in the Campo Grande, which is their Central Park, because of the overwhelming response of Spanish people. And it's our first non-English speaking JLF, where everything is simultaneous translation. So you have Spanish and English together. But there are just thousands of people who come. And again, you'll see a huge Spanish delegation this year coming, their ministers and so on and so forth. And that in many ways has allowed us to spin what we do with JLF in different parts of the world. Remember, it started in many ways for us. It started as a get out of jail free card, because when JLF continued to be at the eye of the proverbial storm, we were like, what do we do to safeguard the brand? Which is why 11 years or 12 years ago, we set up JLF in London. And because of our earlier association in the UK, which is very, very deep, I used to sit on the Arts Council of England's board as well, diversity board. We were able to get all of these mainstream venues on board. So JLF set up in the South Bank. And then we moved to the British Library after 3 years after Jude Kelly left. And now we're opening up a new Voices of Faith at the Barbican in March of this year, a new festival that we're proposing. So in many ways, that's been the trajectory and the interest, I think, in many things Indian. I won't say all things Indian, but many things Indian. Yoga still, and this is something you all have been experimenting with. And we're seeing our sacred series, whether it's Awake in Florida, where you have the 80-something sort of coming and doing yoga stretches at 7:30 in the morning with crystal meditation. But in the dickies of the car, they will have grenade launchers and, automatic rifles and stuff like that. So it's the contrast that you're seeing. And I think India needs to do, certainly the tourism and hospitality segment, needs to do much more to be able to drive that.
Amazing. So you truly made literature, crafts, and art sexy. A lot of the people you see buying books at JLF probably don't know how to speak English. A lot of the people you see wanting these passes from the government, like hundreds of passes every year. Most of them don't even know which authors are coming, etc. Right?